Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to our virtual V Cert Prepare to Teach for Year 1. Before we dive in, we'll start with a couple of quick introductions. I'm Beth Hudspeth and I'm a Provider Development Officer who supports providers in particular schools across the country with the ongoing V Cert onboarding training and CPD. And I have, previous to working at NCFE, I taught art and design subjects for nearly 20 years. And I'm joined today by Helen, whose voice you've already heard, who is our Provider Development Manager, who also supports providers with the V Certs and other qualifications at NCFE. For those of you who may not have heard of NCFE before, we are an educational charity and an awarding organisation that specialises in vocational education. And at post-16, this includes our study programmes and T-levels. And then the 14 to 16, this is our V Cert Technical Awards. And it's a pleasure to have you here all today.
It certainly is. Thanks, Beth. So Helen here as well. Just quickly to share that we are aware that our quality assurance team have recently postponed some sessions which cover how the Model 5 V Certs are assessed. The rearranged dates for these have not been shared with us yet. Please be aware that we're not part of this training, so we are unable to answer any specific questions about assessment regulations. The rearranged dates will be before the end of this academic year, well before you'll need the information about the assessments in the year 2 of the V Certs.
Thank you, Helen. In this webinar, we're going to provide an introduction to the new and refreshed V Cert Level 1-2 Technical Award qualifications. We'll guide you through the structure of the qualification, the exam and the non-exam assessments, and we'll provide an overview of the quality assurance process. We'll also share a summary of teaching and learning materials and other resources we have available to support your delivery. And lastly, there will be the opportunity to ask questions you may have about the new qualification, either throughout the webinar in the question box or at the end of the webinar. Before we begin, we'll start with a starter activity. I'd like to do a quick poll on how confident you are currently feeling with the delivery, assessment and the quality assurance for the V Cert qualification. With 1 being no to little confidence and 10 being very confident. Thanks everyone for your responses, and the poll's results show that we have a range. We have some 3 to 4s, 5 to 6, some 7 to 8. So hopefully for the first question, my expectation is that you'll be at different stages in relation to your confidence level. Some of you may have delivered the legacy model, some of you may be delivering brand new in September. So hopefully by the end of this webinar, we'll get those confidence levels up. I'm now going to talk through the key points of the Level 1-2 Technical Award qualifications. On this slide are all 11 qualifications we are now offering, including the Qualification Accreditation Number, or QAN for short. Throughout this webinar, I will be referring to all of the subject areas. V Certs, they fit into the open group or the third bucket of performance points. This group can hold up to 3 qualifications depending on the qualification size and or the weighting, etc. These new V Certs will all count towards the open group of Progress 8 measures. V Certs can also be delivered alongside other qualifications, but please do bear in mind that the discount codes are applicable to each subject area. So for example, if you're doing the traditional GCSE in sport PE, and we're also delivering a technical award in sports studies with the same learners, then they can only do one of those will count towards the performance tables as their content is similar. And again, note that the health and fitness and the sports study have the same code, so learners can only select one. Whereas health and social care and child development and care in early years have different codes, so can be done at the same time. You may be familiar with this chart that shows how V Cert grading matches with GCSE grading. In the new V Cert grading, level 1 goes up to a maximum of a grade 3 with a distinction, and the level 2 goes up to a maximum grade of an 8.5 for distinction star. The Department of Education has set this maximum as they want the top grades, i.e. the 9s, to be the academic GCSE achievement only. The new and refreshed V Cert Technical Awards have been designed in collaboration with employers and practitioners to empower your learners with industry-relevant skills and knowledge appropriate to a range of the growing sector. This really gives learners a taste of what it's like to complete real-world tasks and projects and the opportunity to achieve based on their skills as well as their knowledge. They are designed to complete by a level 1 and a level 2 learners combined. So if you have mixed ability classes, they will be taught the same content and means that all achievements are recognised. They are all single unit structure with multiple content areas within them. The quals are all designed to be delivered across 120 hours, but the guided learning hours do vary between quals to accommodate assessment time. So it's 120 hours delivery plus between 15 and 24 assessment hours, depending on the nature of the project. For the assessment, content could be sampled from across the full breadth of the qualification, so it's paramount that your learners have been taught everything before they begin the assessment. Summative assessment takes place in the second year. The level 1-2 is compensatory model and has 2 assessments, externally set by NCFE. One is a non-exam assessment and the other one is written exam assessment. At level 1, the grading covers pass, merit and distinction, and at a level 2, the grading covers the pass, merit, distinction and the distinction star, which is equivalent to the GCSE grades 8.5 to 1. And we have removed the level 1 distinction star to decompress grade boundaries at this level. The purpose of the qualifications mean that it's necessary to assess and understand through 2 means of assessment. That is the internal non-exam assessment, or NEA for short, and the examined assessment, EA for short. These are qualification weightings for all subject areas with 60% for the NEA and 40% for the EA, except for the child development care and early years and the health and social care, where it's a 50% for the NEA and 50% for the EA. All technical awards now have a terminal assessment rule as stipulated by Ofqual and the DFE. This means that the external examiners must be taken at the end of the qualification after the non-exam assessment, i.e. the synoptic project has been completed. This slide shows a typical 2-year model. This is only a suggestion and it's to help illustrate the new structure so you can visualize how it's going to work for you. It essentially follows a very similar structure to that of the GCSE. In the first year for delivery, where you have no summative assessment, and the second year is the year of assessment. It has been designed this way to allow the first year of delivery to be focused entirely on the teaching the content of the qualification. This really allows you to focus on ensuring your learners are building up the knowledge and skills and gives you as much time as possible to teach the qualification content so that your learners are ready for the assessment. We will be releasing the NEA briefs on the 1st of September each year. It can be administrated from the 1st of September too, but as long as all the content areas have been taught. We think all the content could have comfortably been delivered by December, ready to start the NEA in January, but some schools may get through everything sooner or slightly later than the January mark. The final marks will need to be submitted to the portal by the 30th of April each year, in which the learner evidence will be moderated, and I'll talk about this in more detail later in the webinar. Please note the first live assessments will be in the academic session of 23-24, so there won't be any live assessments this year. It can be delivered over 3 years, as some centres might want to start delivering in year 9, although we recommend 2 years for the delivery model so that it coincides with the GCSE. And if you decide to deliver over the 3 years, make sure you've registered in the year, and you will be prompted to book the assessment series at the time of registration. So for a 3-year model, you would choose the assessment series 3 years in future. All the new VCerts have a single unit structure. They contain one mandatory unit with a number of content areas sitting within a single unit. The content that is assessed in the EA and the NEA will be sampled from across the full breadth of the qualification. The slide shows the content areas from the subject area food and cookery. Please do check the qualification specification for the other subject areas. This is where you will also find the indicative content and teaching guidance that will support your delivery. Food and cookery comprises of 7 content areas, and all content is mandatory and must be taught. It is essential when planning for teaching and throughout delivery that the independencies and the links build across the content areas of the qualifications and are highlighted and reinforced. The teaching content does not have to be delivered in a linear way. The unit contents are independent in knowledge, skills and concepts. Teachers may take a synoptic teaching approach across the qualification. This concept goes into more detail in our Prepare to Deliver recently, both virtually and last year face-to-face. They are now available to access to view on the VCert playlist, which is on our NCFE YouTube channel.
So within the specification, there is a more detailed breakdown of the indicative content. Information in the teaching content section must be covered by the teacher during the delivery of the content areas and should be considered as mandatory teaching content. The verb understand encompasses both knowledge and understanding within the content areas of this qualification, and each content area will read, the learner will understand. To make cross-reference and assessment and quality assurance easier, we've used a sequential numbering system in this document for each content area. The numbering system used refers to a content area, subject topic, and teaching content, and the content arranged into digestible areas with bulleted lists for teaching and delivery. So for example, on this slide, the first number, the number 2, refers to the content area food and legislation and food provenance. The subject topic within that learning content, which is the second number, 2.2, is food provenance. And the teaching content within the subject topic, which is the third number, is grown where the learner will understand what food is grown in a variety of different ways. This sequential numbering system will also support signpost and feedback to learners and the tracking of their progress. Anything within the teaching guidance is advisory and optional and is intended to provide useful guidance and advice to support delivery of the teaching content. Within the specification, there's a section that provides some useful advice and guidance to support the delivery of the teaching content for each of the content areas. So for an example, a class discussion topic could be, where do the learners' families buy their food? Do they use local shops and markets or larger supermarkets? Ensure you encourage your learners to share their ideas and the implications of their shopping, including the cost, quality, choice of foods available, and carbon footprint. This could then include a follow-up visit to a supermarket to look at the advantages and disadvantages in comparison with the local, smaller shops. This could also be linked to a shopping trip to buy produce and cost it for a recipe that learners are to prepare and cook, comparing the types of ingredients, for example, fresh, frozen, tinned and dried. And you could also consider the use of external visits and/or guest speakers. For example, learners may benefit from listening to the owner of a local farm shop discuss how they source and produce their food and why. And at the end of each section, it lists the resources that are available, such as the classroom teaching packs. We'll talk about these in more detail later in the webinar. And any other resources, such as useful websites. The types of evidence listed are for guidance purposes only. With learners' portfolios, other types of evidence are acceptable if all content areas are covered. And while studying the qualification, learners should also reflect on the importance of identifying and developing their preferred learning style. They should also be able to identify a range of study skills that they can use in order to study effectively.
So I'd now like to provide you with some more detail about the exam assessment, including the sample assessment materials that are available. To summarise, the external assessment, or the EA, is a 40% of the technical award for all subject areas except for the child development and early years and the health and social care, where it's the 50% of the technical award. It is a written examination that is externally set by NCFE. Learners have 1.5 hours to complete it, and it's graded out of 80 marks. There is a mixture of multiple choice, short answer and extended response questions, and it targets assessment objectives AO1, AO2 and AO3. The examination date is May, June every year, and there is only one attempt at the exam assessment. And booking for the EA is upon registration. Please refer to the external assessment timetable on the qual page for confirmation of the exact EA dates, which will be published a year in advance of the actual EA. There are three main types of questions on the external assessment and what were possible. They have been set within context of the subject with real-world case studies. These examples are from the subject areas child development and early years, food and cookery, music technology, graphic design, interactive media, creative design and production. The first type of question is a multiple choice, and they are usually 1 to 2 marks. Multiple choice questions cover the assessment objective 1. The second type of a question is a short answer, and they are usually around 3 to 6 marks. And the third type of question is the extended response. The extended response questions are usually worth 6 marks or more, and there are 9 and 12 mark examples on the slide. There is sample assessment materials available for the EA, and these are for you to use as mocks, and you can fit these in wherever works best for you, be that in the summer year 10 or January year 11, wherever you feel it would be most beneficial for your learners. This is an example of a sample of exam assessment and sample mark scheme for the health and social care. Sample assessment materials include mark schemes available for you to access on our qual page. I'm now going to provide you with more detail about the non-exam assessment, including the sample material that is also available. The NEA is essentially the Synoptic project that some of you will be familiar with and will consist of a number of tasks which the learners will complete under controlled conditions. The example of the NEA summary on this slide is for sports studies. In all the subject areas, the NEA is either 60 or 50% of the technical award, which is externally set by NCFE. There is a set number of hours for completion time and a set of total marks, and is released on the 1st of September each year. The non-exam assessment will target assessment objectives, the AOs, AO1, AO2, AO3, AO4 and the AO5. The NEA is externally set by NCFE, and there would only be one attempt at the NEA per session. The NEA is a practical project that your learners undertake under controlled and supervised conditions. Please refer to the NEA regulations within the tutor guidance for further information and guidance. NCFE recognises that reasonable adjustments may be required for assessments, and information is available in our access arrangement and reasonable adjustments policy and our special considerations policy on our website. Use the descriptors and marking guidance provided by NCFE to assess the learner's work. The learner's evidence is internally quality assured, and the marks for the NEA need to be submitted by the 30th of April each year. There is specific training on the NEA, administrating it and preparing to assess it. There will also be an annual monitoring review at the centre level for your policies and procedures. Centres will be provided with training opportunities for how to administer and assess the NEA, including the application of mark schemes. They will provide valuable information to help you understand our mark schemes, supporting you to run your own standardisation sessions prior to the assessment window opening. These events are a great opportunity to expand your knowledge and understanding of V Certs, the technical awards, and are suitable for assessors and the IQAs delivering on these qualifications. Attendance for these sessions will be checked as well as part of your annual monitoring review. The V Cert administration training. This training will cover the administration activities required to deliver and assess our Level 1, Level 2 technical awards, including key dates, completion of assessment paperwork, your roles and responsibilities, and what you can expect from NCFE. This will be available to access on demand, both on Preparing for Moderation page on the NCFE website and on our V Cert playlist or YouTube channel. The V Cert Prepare to Assess training. This training, as it will help you develop your understanding of the grading criteria when assessing your learners' responses to internally assessed units, and it will provide valuable information to help you understand our mark schemes. And a copy of the recording of the session will be available following the session access on demand, and the sample portfolios will be made available in due course. There is a sample assessment materials available for the NEA, and these are for you to use as practice projects. And you can fit these in whenever works best for you. As I said before, the summer of year 10 or January year 11, wherever you feel it's most beneficial for your learners and the dates for your school. This is an example of the sample of a non-exam assessment for health and fitness. It consists of an introduction, what the synoptic assessment is, information for your learners including the AOs, the marks and the weightings, the project brief, the assessment tasks and the learner declaration. And there is also a sample mark scheme. It consists of assessment tasks and associated mark scheme including descriptors, available marks and indicative content for each of the AOs. Sample assessment materials including mark schemes will be available for you to access on the NCFE website on the V Cert page.
I'll now provide a brief overview of the quality assurance process and then provide some information in relation to moderation. So the assessor will assess and mark all learner evidence for the NEA in line with the mark schemes provided by NCFE. The assessor will also complete the assessor to learner feedback, and it will also go to the moderator for sampling. As the NEA is moderated, the centre's IQA efforts need to be focused on upfront standardisation. Standardisation will ensure that assessors' judgments are in line with the qualification specification and, of course, the grading criteria. The IQA should then be occupationally competent and knowledgeable, and so able to challenge any of the assessor's decisions. The IQA can be involved in the teaching or assessment of the NEA, but they can't, however, IQA their own assessment decisions. Centres need to apply their own IQA policy and process based on the outcome of standardisation activities that they complete to satisfy their own internal quality assurance. In line with JCQ guidance, centres should inform learners of their centre-assessed marks before the marks are submitted to NCFE in order to allow for any internal centre appeals. And then centres should make it clear to learners that any centre-assessed marks are subject to change through the moderation process. Learners are not permitted to resubmit their responses once the assessment has been submitted and marked by the centre. And all centres with active registrations on any qualification will have an annual monitoring review, or AMR, to review policies and procedures. This is not subject specific and will be annual. And there's a full section on preparing for your AMR on our website. If you have any queries about this quality assurance process, please contact the external quality assurance team on the email address you can see on the slide now. And I'll pop that into the chat as well, just so that you don't have to make a note.
You will be asked to submit marks for each learner on the portal, and we will use these marks to select learners to be sampled based on the JCQ sampling strategy. A sample will be requested based on stage 3. You will be able to view learners selected for the sampling on the portal. Learners selected for sampling will be visible on the portal the day after the window closes. Centres will be required to view the sampling plan on the portal and upload learner evidence for the sampled learners within 48 hours. Guidance on how to do this can be found in our portal user guide. Moderation could take place remotely, and the feedback will be provided on results day in the final moderation report accessed on the portal. And please refer to our guide to the remote moderation and preparing for moderation pages on the website for more information.
So during moderation, the moderator will assess the sample. Following the moderation process and the outcome of our quality checks, one of the following 3 marks will be applied to your cohort. So provider mark 1 confirms that the provider mark has been accepted. This means that the provider marks were within tolerance of the moderator marks. The provider mark has been accepted for all students within the cohort. Number 2 is the regressed mark. Confirms that the regressed mark has been accepted. This means that the provider marks were outside of the tolerance, but in a consistent way. For example, all marks are higher than the moderator, or all marks were lower than the moderator, with a difference larger than twice the tolerance. Therefore, linear regression can be applied to the whole cohort. The regressed marks have been applied for all students within that cohort. And the moderator mark, and this confirms that the moderator mark has been accepted. This means that the provider marks were outside of tolerance and in an inconsistent way. For example, some marks were higher than the moderator mark and some were lower than the moderator mark, with the difference larger than twice the tolerance. Therefore, the provider mark could not be reliably be adjusted, and the moderator mark has been accepted for all students within that cohort. You will receive a moderation report to explain the outcome of the moderation activity, along with the areas performed well and any areas for development. So for further information and guidance, please do refer to the Preparing for Moderation review on the NCFE website.
I'd now like to explain and give you details of the resources and support that are available for you in your centres. So when you register your learners or approve to deliver this qualification, you will be contacted by the provider development team as part of the onboarding process that I talked about at the beginning of this webinar. This service is tailored to the individual needs of the centre to ensure the requirements are met. The provider development team provides support to ensure you're prepared to teach the qualification and are clear on the requirements for delivery and assessment. There are also regular CPD sessions throughout the year, especially around those key assessment times, to make sure you're on track and feeling confident. The provider development team also provides the following services to name but a few. So tutorial videos of support for supporting learners, guidance on key updates to subject content, mapping documents, monthly webinars, intervention support tools, delivery training sessions, tailored workshops, and more. On our NCFE website within the V Cert page, you'll find the information about why choose V Certs and the 14 to 16 schools brochure that contains information about Key Stage 4 vocational education and how to learn more about our V Cert qualifications. They can also be used at option evenings in order to help learners make informed decisions about which qualifications to take and what the progression opportunities are and the career prospects. You'll also find the link to each subject-specific page and contains information such as the specification, sample assessment materials, and the teacher materials. We also have our parent supporter and pupil V Cert information hub, where the resources are aimed at helping parents and learners make informed decisions around V Certs, including a parent guide, what learners think about the V Cert, and subject guides. On both pages, you can also get in touch function where you can request more information on subjects you're interested in, and there is also the opportunity to tick the marketing communication box to receive updates on our qualifications events and the news relevant to you via an email, phone, or through social media channels. We've integrated our Qual Hub page into the ncfe.org UK page. The ncfe.org UK will be where you can also go to search for all our qualifications and access the specification, the assessment, teaching materials, the regulations, the course file documents, and much more. You can use our search our qualifications function by adding your subject area to the qualification code, or you can select V Certs in the feature box. Always ensure you have the correct page by checking the qualification accreditation number, or QAM. This is the page for engineering, and if you scroll down, you'll see some brief information about the qualification, including the career opportunities and the performance table details. And if you scroll further down, you will see the support materials tab, where you will find the qualification specification and the Synoptics connection document. In the assessment materials tab, you will find the sample assessment materials, and they are available for the NEA and the EA. And lastly, the teacher materials will also be available to download here too. And if you don't have a login, it would usually be your exams officer who can help. And you can also refer to the portal user guide on our website for further support. There are classroom packs containing ready-to-go teaching and learning materials with everything you need to deliver the V Cert effectively. The classroom packs will be in a digital and editable format and will be free to download. There will be schemes of work which completely outline the entire units of work based on a 1-hour lesson for each content area. The schemes of work will contain an additional level of detail to help you deliver your lesson and included suggested timings, lesson aims, learning outcomes, and suggested assessment activities. You will have completed PowerPoint presentations covering the teaching content from the specification and includes teaching activities that could be used with your pupils. There will be comprehensive workbooks to complete to the scheme of work, which will contain classroom-based activities to recap and assess learning. The workbook will also include independent study tasks that you can be used for homework or flipped learning opportunities, whatever you decide. And furthermore, the workbooks will contain learning roundups, which will be short formative assessments for the pupils to assess their knowledge using similar question types. And these can be used for external assessment as there is for these resources. It's best to use them to adjust them and use them to suit your pupils. Using the actual assessment material is a good way to make revision effective. And as I've already mentioned, there's also sample assessment materials that are available for the EA and the NEA for you to access on the NCFE website on the V Cert page, on the qualification page. So Hodder, one of the top textbook publishers, will be providing brand new resources for some of our V Cert subjects. There will be a second edition learner textbook and boost ebooks. It will be on the go-to guide that matches the specification and is designed to support all learners with clear explanations of each concept and has carefully been designed tasks and activities to build skill set to aid progression. There is also a brand new suite of print and digital resources that will be available to guide your learners through the refreshed NCFE Level 1-2 V Cert Technical Awards. The Health and Fitness and the Business Enterprise textbooks are available to order now. The child development care and early years in food and cookery are not yet published and are now available for pre-orders. Revision guides for the 4 mentioned subject areas, health, fitness, business enterprise, child development, early years, food and cookery, are also expected in summer 2023, including engineering. And you can view the sample chapters on Hodder's website if you'd like to find out more information about their resources or talk to your local representative about promotional offers. Please email vocational@hoddereducation.co.uk and they'll get in touch. iAchieve is a third-party resource that is endorsed by NCFE. iAchieve and NCFE have worked closely over the last 5 years, with iAchieve producing complete online resource packages that support our technical qualifications. iAchieve are developing resources for many of our new specifications, including the health and fitness, the food and cookery, the business enterprise, the child development and early years, with an exciting new look and feel on all new platform functions. iAchieve are also interested in adding health and social care, sports studies, engineering and digital technology to their suite, so watch this space for further development and updates. For more information and contact details, visit iachieve.org.uk. Other support that is available includes our wonderful customer support team who can help and support with the first line of inquiries, registration queries and bookings on the portal. You can also email us vcerts@ncfe.org.uk with any questions that are especially related to the new V Cert qualifications. And now we've reached the end of our webinar, I'd like to follow up with a poll on how confident you are feeling now with the delivery of this assessment of the quality assurance for the new and refreshed V Cert Level 1-2 Technical Award. 1 being not so little confident and 10 being very confident.
And just while people are doing that, I'm just going to just remind you, if you've got any questions, please pop them into the question box for us and we'll see if we can answer them for you.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, we've allowed time at the end of the webinar for questions, so please pop any questions you have. Thanks everyone for your responses, and my hope for this being the final question that you'd feel more confident with the levels, and they have improved. We've got some 9 and 10s and 7 and 8s. And I'm pleased by the end of this webinar that you're now feeling more knowledgeable and self-assured about these qualifications. So as we've now reached the end of the session, are there any questions? As I said, we've allowed the last 15 minutes of this webinar to open floor if you post in the question box any questions you may have.
Nothing coming through at the moment, so we'll just give you a few more moments just to... Oh, right, we've got a question here now, Beth. Will you be providing clear grade descriptors, just as there were for, I would imagine, for the previous qualifications?
Yes, on the current specification, there's grade description for the distinction and the pass, and that's within the teacher guidance and the specification.
And then we've also got a question, will model answers be provided for the NEA?
They're within the sample assessment, which is available on the NCFE qual page.
Lovely, thanks, Beth. Any more questions? Are NEA sections graded OA section by section, or are all results uploaded?
Results are uploaded for the NEA.
At once. I just had to expand the box.
Yeah. Yeah, so the NEA is assessed internally, IQA'd internally, and then uploaded to the portal. But whoever IQA's the work cannot IQA their own assessment.
Thank you for your questions so far. Are there any more?
If you do have any further questions after the session, then please do get in touch with us directly using our email. that's on the screen, because I know what it's like when you come to this, you go to a webinar and there's lots of information, then you think of something later on. So the email for provider development at ncfe.org.uk. If you email us at any time with any questions.